Have you ever wondered if there's something you're doing without even noticing that's quietly creating distance between you and the people you care about? As we grow older, we slip into habits. Some are cozy and full of wisdom, but others can become blind spots we don't see. You might think you're just being yourself, but those around you, your family, friends, even strangers, they pick up on things. They notice even if they don't say a word. In this video, we're going to explore these habits and how they can quietly shift how people connect with you. These aren't about how you look. They're behaviors that can slowly erode the grace and respect you've earned over the years. We're not here to judge, but to gently hold up a mirror and ask, is this still me? The good news, most of these habits can be changed with just a spark of awareness. Stay with me. And by the end, you'll not only spot these habits, but also learn simple ways to show up with more warmth, confidence, and dignity. Let's explore how small shifts can bring you closer to the people you love and to the person you want to be. Let's start with the first habit, holding on to clothes that no longer fit who you are today. There's something so comforting about routines, eating the same breakfast, taking the same morning walk, or reaching for those familiar shirts you've loved for years. And there's nothing wrong with that kind of consistency. But when it comes to what you wear, clothes that once felt like you can start to tell a different story over time. Maybe it's pants that hang a little too loose, shirts that cling too tight, styles that echo decades past, or shoes so worn they've lost their shape. You might not notice it yourself, but the way your clothes fit or don't speaks loudly to those around you. It's not about chasing the latest trends or dressing like you're half your age. It's about showing the world you're still connected to the present, still caring for the person you are right now. When you wear clothes that no longer suit you, it can quietly signal that you've stopped paying attention, that you're living more in the past than in today. And while no one will say it outright, people notice. They see it in the way your outfit doesn't quite match the vibrant person they know or want to know. When you step out in clothes that fit well, that feel fresh and cared for, it sparks something in others. Admiration. It says, I'm still here, still showing up, not out of vanity, but out of self-respect. Think about it. Would you wear the same outfit to an important event today that you wore 20 years ago? Probably not. Our bodies change. Our style evolves, and so does the way we shine. Choosing clothes that reflect who you are now shows you're emotionally present, aware of yourself, and proud of the person you've become. Some might say, I don't care what others think, I'm comfortable. And that's okay. But there's a difference between comfort and letting go. You can be cozy and still put together, relaxed, yet respectful of how you appear. Even something as simple as a well-fitting pair of jeans or a shirt that brightens your face can shift how people respond to you. They might not say it, but they'll smile a bit more, treat you with a touch more warmth. Why? Because your appearance is the first thing the world sees, and in your later years, it still sets the tone for how you're welcomed. That quiet dignity in how you dress, it's a gift to yourself and everyone around you. Now let's talk about the second habit. Speaking a little too freely. As we age, something funny happens. That little voice in our head that used to whisper, maybe don't say, that starts to fade. Sometimes it vanishes altogether. You might find yourself sharing your thoughts more openly, even proudly, thinking, I've lived long enough to earn the right to say what's on my mind. And while that can feel freeing, it doesn't always land the way you hope with those around you. There's a fine line between being honest and coming across as harsh, and it's easy to cross it without noticing. Maybe you've made a comment about someone's appearance, their choices, or how they're raising their kids. You might laugh it off saying, I'm just keeping it real. Or people used to be tougher in my day. But here's the thing. What feels like truth to you can sting others. As criticism, honesty, without a touch of kindness, often feels like judgment. And the people hearing it, they don't usually tell you. Instead, they pull back quietly. You might notice they stop inviting you to gatherings or phone calls. Get shorter. They still care about you, but they're shielding themselves from those sharp, careless words. Now, this does not mean you have to hold back every thought or tiptoe around everyone. It's about pausing for a moment before you speak and asking yourself, is this helpful? Is it kind? Because sometimes what feels like just saying it, like it is really just letting out frustration, and it hits harder than you realize. A simple way to check yourself if you wouldn't want someone saying it to your grandchild. Maybe it's not the best thing to say to someone else. The beauty of growing older is the wisdom you've gathered along the way. When you wrap that wisdom in warmth and care, people don't just hear you. They lean in, they listen closely, they respect you deeply. But when your words carry a bite, even unintentionally, people start to tune out, no matter how good your intentions are. Your words have power, maybe more now than ever, because of the life you've lived. Use them to build bridges to bring people closer, not to create distance. That's the kind of presence that leaves a lasting mark. One that invites connection and makes every conversation feel like a gift. Let's move on to the third habit. Letting personal hygiene slip. Now, this isn't about major neglect or anything dramatic. It's about those small things that can quietly add up. Maybe it's wearing the same shirt a couple of days too long, or hair that hasn't seen a brush in a while. Perhaps it's nails that are just a bit overgrown, or a faint scent that lingers after you've left the room. These might feel like little details, but to the people around you, they speak volumes. Hygiene isn't just about staying clean. It's a reflection of how you carry yourself, how you show up in the world. When we're younger, we tend to keep up with these things without a second thought. But as we age, life changes. Energy fades, routines shift, and sometimes it's easy to think, does it really matter anymore? The truth is, it does. Those around you notice, even if they don't say it out loud. They might not tell you because they don't want to hurt your feelings. Especially younger family members who struggle to find the right words. Instead, they adjust quietly. They might sit a little farther away, cut visits short, or hesitate before offering a hug. It's not about rejecting you. It's about the subtle message your self-care sends. When you let these things slide, it can feel to others like you've stopped caring, like you're not valuing yourself the way you once did. And here's something no one says directly. When you stop taking care of yourself, people tend to mirror that. Their warmth and respect can cool almost without them realizing it. Now, this isn't about chasing perfection or trying to look like a magazine cover. It's simpler than that. A clean shirt, tidy hair, trimmed nails. These small acts say, I'm still here. I still care about myself and I care about you. They're like a quiet signal to the world that you respect yourself and those around you. Your energy shines through before your words ever do, and how you care for yourself sets the tone for how others treat you. When you show up feeling fresh and put together, it invites kindness, closeness, and dignity from everyone you meet. That's the kind of presence that warms a room, and it starts with those little choices you make every day. Now let's talk about the fourth habit, taking over conversations without leaving room for others. As we grow older, we've got a treasure chest of stories, lessons, and experiences, and it's only natural to want to share them. You're in a chat. Someone mentions something you've been through, and before you know it, you're diving in with a story, advice, or a perspective. Suddenly, 10 minutes have passed, and no one else has had a chance to speak. It's easy to fall into this habit, and it often comes from a good place, a desire to help, to teach, or to make sure your voice is heard. But here's the thing. When we dominate a conversation, even with the best intentions, it can feel like we're closing the door on others. People want to feel seen and heard, not like they're sitting through a lecture, and they won't always tell you they feel this way. Instead, you might notice they start pulling back. Calls get shorter. They don't share as much, or they avoid deeper talks altogether. It's not that they don't value your wisdom. It's that they're craving a two-way street. This can hit especially hard with younger folks or grandchildren, who might already feel a bit unsure about connecting across generations. When every chat feels like it's led by you, they might start keeping their thoughts to themselves, and that distance grows quietly. The good news It's not about talking less. It's about listening more. It's about letting pauses linger, asking questions instead of offering answers right away, and holding back advice unless someone asks for it. One of the most powerful things you can do: give others space to share their thoughts, their stories, their hearts. It shows them their words matter just as much as yours. And here's the beautiful irony: when you step back a little, people lean in more. They start seeking your input, trusting your perspective, because they know you're not just waiting for your turn to speak. You're truly hearing them. So next time you're chatting, whether it's with a group or one-on-one notice, are you listening with your full heart? Or are you itching to jump in? That small shift can transform a conversation. When people feel heard, they open up, they draw closer, and they look forward to talking with you. Not bracing for a monologue, but excited for a real connection. That's the kind of presence that builds bonds that last. Let's move to the fifth habit: grumbling about kids these days. It often starts small. A passing thought when you see a teenager glued to their phone, or hear someone younger make a choice you wouldn't. You might think, back in my day, we did things differently, or they don't know how the world really works. Before long, those thoughts slip out in conversations with friends, family, or even strangers. It might feel like just an observation, maybe even a bit of a joke, but when it becomes a habit, it sends a message that's heavier than you might realize to the people around you, especially your children or grandchildren. It can feel like you're shutting the door on their world, dismissing their values, their challenges, their way of life. Here's the truth: every generation looks at the one coming up and thinks they're missing something. That's as old as time. But when you lean into constant criticism, it doesn't come across as wisdom. It can feel like bitterness. Younger folks, especially those under 50, might not say it, but they hear it as rejection. They start to hold back, keeping conversations light to avoid judgment. You might notice they don't open up as much, or they steer clear of deeper topics. They love you, but they're protecting a piece of themselves from feeling misunderstood. Now, this doesn't mean you have to agree with every choice or trend the younger crowd follows. You don't have to jump on every bandwagon. But there's power in choosing curiosity over criticism. Instead of saying, "These kids have it so easy," try asking, "What's it like navigating this world today?" That simple shift opens a door. It invites connection instead of building walls. Your value doesn't come from proving the past was better. It comes from being a bridge between then and now. When you show respect for the younger generation, even if you don't fully get it, they notice. They start to listen more, ask for your thoughts, seek your guidance, not because they feel obligated, but because they want to. You become more than just the older person in the room. You're someone they admire, trust, and turn to for wisdom that meets them where they are. That's real influence, and it starts with letting go of the need to compare eras. Instead, lean into who you can be today. A steady, open-hearted presence that makes every generation feel valued. Now let's talk about the sixth habit: overlooking modern etiquette. There's a kind of social awareness that's easy to miss until it's not there. Small things like talking loudly on your phone in a quiet cafe, standing a bit too close in line, or playing a video without headphones in a waiting room. These might seem like no big deal, and years ago they probably weren't. Back then, people might have shrugged off a loud conversation or an unexpected quirk. But today, the world's changed, and what once felt harmless can now make others quietly uncomfortable. The tricky part: you might not even realize you're doing it. No one's likely to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Could you lower your voice?" or "Mind giving me a little space?" Instead, they'll give a quick glance shift away or find another seat. It's not that they're upset with you personally. It's just that these small moments send a message: I'm not tuned in to those around me. And here's something to know: people don't always give older folks a free pass. They might assume you know better. So when these behaviors pop up, it can feel like disregard rather than a simple oversight. That's not the impression you want to leave behind. The good news is, this is one of the easiest habits to shift. Just take a moment to notice how others move through shared spaces, how they keep their voices soft on calls, give a bit of room in lines, or use earbuds for videos. Modern etiquette isn't about being fussy. It's about showing you care about the people around you. It's a way of saying, I'm still part of this world, still paying attention, still mindful of how I affect others. That kind of awareness builds respect, not just from strangers, but from your own family too. Your grandkids notice, your neighbors notice, and their quiet admiration grows. In a world that's always moving fast, someone who carries themselves with thoughtfulness, who navigates shared spaces with care stands out in the best way. To know. It's a subtle kind of grace that says, you're still engaged, still present, still someone who values the comfort of others. That's a legacy worth carrying, and it starts with small, mindful choices in how you show up every day. Let's move on to the 7th habit. Talking too much about health troubles. We've all been there. When you get a group of folks together, it's easy for the conversation to turn into a rundown of Aki's doctor visits or the latest medication lineup. It might feel like a natural way to connect even a bit of lighthearted banter. But when chats keep circling back to what's hurting, what the doctor said, or the next appointment on the calendar, it can start to weigh heavy on those around you. Aging comes with its share of physical challenges, and no one expects you to pretend everything's perfect. But when health issues become the main topic every time you talk, it can shift the vibe. For younger family members especially, these conversations can feel heavy, even overwhelming. They might not know what to say or feel helpless hearing about things they can't fix. So instead of leaning in, they might step back, not out of disrespect, but because they're quietly drained. It's not that they don't care. It's that they want to connect with you, not just your struggles. You deserve to be heard, to share what's real for you. But when health dominates every chat, it can turn a relationship into something that feels more like caretaking than companionship. Think about the people you love spending time with. They're likely the ones who don't dwell on every ache or pill. They might mention a challenge, but then move on to share a story, a laugh, or something that lights them up. That balance makes all the difference. You don't have to hide your struggles, but choose when and with whom to share them. Save those deeper talks for close friends or family who can handle them. And even then, mix in other topics. Talk about the book you're enjoying, the flowers blooming in your neighbor's yard, or that funny bird you spotted outside. Your life is so much more than a medical chart, and people want to hear those other stories, the ones that show who you are beyond what hurts. When you focus on what still brings you joy, conversations feel lighter, and connections grow stronger. You lift the room, and in a world that can feel heavy, that's a gift. By sharing your whole self, not just your symptoms, you invite others to do the same. And that's where real closeness begins. Now, let's look at the 8th habit, telling jokes that don't quite land anymore. A good sense of humor is like a spark that lights up any room. It keeps you young at heart, eases tension, and makes others feel at ease. But as time goes on, some of the jokes that used to get big laughs decades ago might not hit the same way today. Maybe you're still tossing out the same playful jabs, sarcastic quips, or comments that lean on old stereotypes about someone's background, looks, or life choices. You might chuckle and say, "I'm just kidding," or, "Oh, come on, lighten up." But here's the thing. The world has shifted, and so has what people find funny. What once felt like harmless teasing can now feel out of touch or even hurtful, especially to younger folks who've grown up in a world that values inclusion and sensitivity. They might not say anything. They'll offer a polite smile or a forced laugh, but inside, they're pulling back, keeping their distance to avoid more uncomfortable moments. You might sense that gap growing, but not quite know why. This doesn't mean you have to stop joking or walk on eggshells every time you open your mouth. Humor is still a gift, but it's worth pausing to think. Is this funny because it's clever? and kind, or because it puts someone down. The best humor, especially as we age, lifts everyone up. It brings people together instead of making anyone feel singled out. One of the easiest ways to keep your humor warm and welcoming is to poke fun at yourself, those little quirks or mishaps we all have. It shows humility. It invites laughter. And it says, "I'm not here to judge. I'm just enjoying the moment with you." When you share that kind of lightness, people relax. They feel safe to laugh with you, to connect with you. You don't need to overhaul your sense of humor. Just tweak it a bit to match the times. A thoughtful, self-aware joke shows you're still in step with the world, still growing, still someone who can bring joy, without leaving anyone out. That kind of humor doesn't just keep the conversation going. It keeps hearts open, making you the person everyone loves to be around, no matter their age. Let's turn to the 9th habit, moving through spaces without noticing those around you. As we get older, our steps might slow. We might feel a bit less steady, or we take extra care with our movements, and that's perfectly natural. But sometimes, without realizing it, we can lose track of how our actions affect others in shared spaces. Maybe you've seen it, someone pausing in the middle of a grocery aisle, cart angled just enough to block the way, lost in reading a label, or stopping suddenly in a busy walkway, caught in a thought, or drifting into someone's path while chatting with a friend. These moments usually happen without any bad intent. You're just focused on what you're doing. But to others, especially those rushing or navigating tight spaces, it can feel like a small hurdle in their day. They won't often say anything. They might let out a quiet sigh, step around you, or shoot a quick glance before moving on. Over time, though, these little moments add up, and people might start seeing you as someone who's always unintentionally in the way. They might even avoid walking with you or shopping together. Not because they don't care, but because it feels like extra effort to keep things smooth. Now let's be clear. Slowing down isn't the issue. It's about awareness. You can move at your own pace and still be mindful of the space you share. You can pause to check a price, but stay to one side. You can walk carefully while keeping an eye on the flow of people around you. This matters most in busy places like stores, sidewalks, airports, or even church hallways. Spaces where everyone's trying to move together. Being thoughtful in these moments sends a quiet message. I'm still tuned in, still thinking about others. It's a subtle kind of grace that shows you're not just focused on yourself, but present and considerate. People don't expect you to be perfect. They just appreciate the effort. When you show that awareness, you stand out, not as someone who's slower, but as someone who moves with kindness and dignity. That presence carries weight, especially in a world that's always in a hurry. By staying mindful of how you share space, you create a ripple of respect, not just from strangers, but from those closest to you, who see you as someone who still cares about the little things that make life smoother for everyone. Now, let's talk about the 10th habit, holding too tightly to outdated beliefs. As we age, we carry a lifetime of ideas that shaped who we are. Principles that guided our families, our work, our sense of the world. Those beliefs were our anchors, and they served us well. But sometimes, if we're not careful, they can turn into walls that keep us from connecting with the world as it is today. You might catch yourself saying, "That's just how things are," or "People are too soft nowadays," or even, "I don't care what anyone says. I know what's right." It feels like standing your ground. But to others, it can sound like resistance, like you're closing the door on new perspectives. The world keeps moving, technology, culture, the way people think about life. It's all changing fast. When we dig in and refuse to even listen to new ideas, it doesn't feel like strength to those around us. It can feel like stubbornness. Younger folks especially notice this, but they rarely call it out. Instead, they quietly decide there are topics they can't bring up with you, parts of their lives they won't share, because they feel you won't understand, or worse, won't try to. That's a missed chance for connection. Whether it's your grandchild exploring a non-traditional path, or a neighbor living a life you don't quite get. There's so much to gain when you choose curiosity over judgment. Staying open doesn't mean giving up your values. It means being willing to learn to stretch your understanding without losing who you are. Sometimes that stubbornness comes from a hidden fear. Fear of becoming irrelevant, of being left behind, of losing a piece of yourself if you let go of old ways. But here's the truth. Your relevance isn't tied to clinging to the past. It comes from how bravely you embrace the present. When you say, "I hadn't thought of it that way," or "Tell me more about what that means to you," you open hearts and minds. People feel safe with you. And sometimes, you might even find they're right about something in ways you never expected. That willingness to listen to grow, even in your later years, that's what makes people truly admire you. It's not about having all the answers. It's about staying a student of life, curious and humble. That's a rare kind of wisdom, and it's one that keeps connections alive and thriving. Let's move to the 11th habit. Acting helpless when you don't need to. Aging brings its challenges. No one's arguing that tasks that once felt like second nature might take a bit more effort or time now, and that's okay. But there's a difference between genuinely needing a hand and leaning on others for things you're still perfectly capable of doing. Maybe you found yourself saying, "Can you just handle this for me? Or I'll probably mess it up anyway," when it's something like using a new gadget or carrying a light bag. At first, those requests might seem small, harmless even. But if they become a pattern, they can start to wear on the people around you. Family might feel like they're always stepping in. Friends might notice they're constantly the ones fixing or fetching. And though they'll smile and say, "It's no trouble," deep down they might start to feel a quiet frustration. This habit often sneaks up. Not from laziness, but from something deeper, maybe a fear of failing, of looking foolish, or of not keeping up with a fast-changing world. So you hand things off, and bit by bit, your confidence slips away. But here's what's beautiful. People don't expect you to be perfect. They admire effort. They'd rather see you try, even if it's a little clumsy, than give up before you start. Your kids, grandkids, or neighbors light up when they see you tackle something yourself, showing you're still in the game. And when you do ask for help, only when you truly need it, they feel honored to step in, knowing it's not just a reflex, but a genuine need. Keeping your independence isn't about pretending you're young again. It's about embracing what you can still do and being clear about what you can't. Those small victories, like figuring out a new remote or carrying your own groceries, build a quiet strength in you. They remind everyone and yourself that age might change your pace, but it doesn't dim your spirit or your ability to show up. The people who age with grace aren't the ones who never need help. They're the ones who know when to ask and when to say, "I've got this." That balance earns respect, trust, and a deeper connection with those around you, because it shows you're still choosing to live fully at every single day. Now, let's wrap up with the 12th habit. Always needing to be right. After a lifetime of hard-earned lessons, tough choices, and moments that shaped who you are, it's natural to feel like you've got a good grip on how things work. You've seen so much, and that experience gives you a sense of authority. But sometimes that confidence can tip into a need to prove you're right, and it can quietly push people away. Maybe it shows up in little ways, correcting someone's story at the dinner table, insisting your way is the only way that makes sense, or brushing off a new idea with, "Trust me, I know better." At first, others might let it slide, maybe even laugh it off, but over time, being around someone who always has to have the last word can feel exhausting. People start to hold back their thoughts, avoid deeper conversations, or stop sharing altogether, not because you've convinced them, but because it's easier to stay quiet. The truth is, this habit often comes from a place of wanting to feel secure, to hold your ground in a world that's changing faster than ever. But when being right overshadows being kind or open. It creates distance instead of connection. True wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about knowing when to share your perspective and when to let others explore theirs. It's holding your beliefs with strength, but also with enough humility to listen. The people we admire most aren't the ones who correct every detail. They're the ones who hear us out, reflect, and offer insights that invite us to think but force us to agree. When you let go of the need to win every discussion, something amazing happens. People start seeking you out. They value your thoughts more because they know you're not just speaking to prove a point, you're sharing from a place of calm and care. Your words carry weight, not because they're the loudest, but because they're thoughtful, measured, and leave room for others. In the end, it's not about being the one who's always right. It's about how you make people feel. When you create space for others to be heard, to share, and to grow alongside you, your presence becomes something they cherish, something that lingers long after the conversation ends. As we come to the end of these 12 habits, take a quiet moment to think about them. Not with judgment, but with kindness toward yourself. Which ones felt familiar? Which ones surprised you? And which ones are you ready to gently work on, even just a little? This video wasn't about pointing out flaws. It was about shining a soft light on those blind spots we all have, the ones that creep in over time without us noticing. Recognizing them doesn't make you less. It makes you stronger. It shows you're still growing, still choosing to show up in the world with grace and care. Aging well isn't about holding tight to who you were or resisting the changes around you. It's about stepping into each day with a heart that's open, a mind that's aware, and a spirit that still wants to connect and inspire. Keep these habits in mind, not as a strict checklist, but as gentle nudges to help you move through life with dignity and warmth. The smallest shifts. How you listen, how you speak, how you carry yourself can transform the way people see you, and more importantly, how you feel about yourself. Thank you for being here with us today. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and share one thing you're taking away from this video, or a step you're ready to try. Your voice matters to us, and reading your comments keeps us inspired to create more content like this. If this video spoke to you, please give it a like. Hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who might find it helpful. Your support means the world and helps us keep spreading these messages of growth and connection. Here's to living fully, loving deeply, and aging with grace. We'll see you in the next video.